The orange wall just got higher. Everyone predicted 2026 would be the year KTM finally lost control. We were told the gap had closed, but something happened in the first 48 hours that nobody saw coming, and it changes everything. They've built a fortress. We expected a massive brawl between Honda, Hero, and the Austrians, but the timesheets are telling a much more brutal story. While other teams are already dealing with speeding penalties, crashes, and mechanical headaches, KTM is running a masterclass in perfection that has the rest of the bivouac panicking before they've even settled into the race rhythm. The KTM Blitz, Canet, and Sanders are unstoppable. The sheer dominance of the Red Bull KTM Factory Racing team is the only headline that matters right now. It's not just that they are leading, it's the way they are doing it. It's a suffocating 1-2 punch that feels completely insurmountable for the competition. The strategy here isn't just about raw speed, though they have plenty of that. It's the perfect blend of youthful aggression and veteran racecraft that is breaking the spirits of the other teams this early in the rally. The prodigy, Edgar Canet, didn't just win the prologue, he used it to set up a historic Stage 1. Winning the first real stage of Dakar is usually a curse because you have to open the road the next day, but Canet didn't care. He became the youngest stage winner ever, proving he isn't just there to support the big names, he's a legitimate threat. He navigated the rocks and sandstorms of the Yambu Loop with the composure of a guy who's been doing this for a decade. He's putting the factory bike exactly where it needs to be, and he's doing it with a pace that forces everyone else to ride over their limit just to keep up. Then you have the veteran, Daniel Sanders. While Canet was fighting the dust and rocks up front, Sanders was doing something completely different. Most riders would have panicked trying to keep up. Sanders? He had a plan, and it worked perfectly. His ride in Stage 1 was calculated to perfection. He let the kid take the glory and the physical toll of opening the road, while he rode comfortably in the dust, minimizing risk and conserving his equipment. He didn't panic when Canet took the spotlight. He waited. Then, when Stage 2 opened up the route to Alula, Sanders dropped the hammer. He erased the gap, capitalized on the tracks laid before him, and surged to the overall lead. He played it cool, waited for his moment, and attacked. His execution in Stage 2 was a masterclass in rallycraft. Starting behind Canet, Sanders used dust riding as a weapon, letting the youngster clear navigation hazards while he focused purely on speed. By trusting Canet's lines, Sanders saved mental energy for the open plateaus, turning a navigational stage into a motocross sprint, where he could push the rev limiter when it mattered most. And we have to talk about the tech factor. The KTM 450 rally machines are looking absolutely bulletproof. The terrain in these first two stages has been nasty, jagged rocks hidden in sand, high-speed washouts, and dust that kills engines. Yet, we haven't heard a whisper of a mechanical issue from the Orange camp. 0 reported failures. When a rider trusts their machine completely, they ride differently. They attack rock gardens faster because they know the suspension will eat it up. They push the engine harder because they know it won't pop. That reliability is a psychological weapon against teams that are already pulling out the wrenches. These orange machines are ghosting through the terrain while others are braking because of engineering, not luck. The factory 450S are running a suspension setup that allows the bike to float over jagged rocks without deflecting, massively reducing rider fatigue. Combined with smoother engine mapping that finds traction on slick slabs where rivals spin up, Sanders and Canet can attack lines others can't risk, effectively shortening the stage by straight-lining the rough stuff. This is the nightmare scenario for the rest of the field. You have a fearless rookie pushing the pace up front and a savvy veteran controlling the overall standings from behind, both on bikes that refuse to brake. It's a pincer movement that is squeezing the life out of the rally. While KTM is executing a perfect race, their biggest rivals shot themselves in the foot before they even left the dunes. Hero's self-sabotage. Speed means nothing without discipline. Hero Motorsports looked like they finally had the pace to beat KTM. If you were watching the live tracking during Stage 1, you saw Ross Branch absolutely flying. The Kalahari Ferrari was living up to the nickname, physically beating the KTMs on the road and crossing the finish line with a lead that should have sent a shockwave through the bivouac. For a few hours, it looked like we had a real fight on our hands. Branch had the speed, the bike was eating up the terrain, and the team looked ready to capitalize on any weakness from the Austrians. But rally raids aren't won by who crosses the line first. They are won by who makes the fewest mistakes. And the results sheet tells a tragic story of a team that beat themselves before the race really started. You cannot hand minutes back to a team like Red Bull KTM and expect to survive. Branch crossed the stage 1 finish line with a solid 1.5-minute lead over the field, a massive statement. He should have been celebrating. Instead, something happened in the bivouac that changed everything. The stewards reviewed the footage and found something that cost him the stage win. He was speeding in a neutralized zone. That's a non-competitive section where you have to follow a strict speed limit. It's not a skill test, it's a discipline test. But because of that speeding infringement, the stewards slapped him with a 6-minute penalty. Just like that, a stage win turned into a 7th-place finish. He went from controlling the race to chasing a 4-minute deficit, all because of a lapse in concentration on a straight road. That 6-minute penalty does more than cost time. It breaks the rider's confidence. Now Branch has to ride desperate instead of riding smart. You feel the need to override to claw that time back immediately. We saw the consequences of this mindset play out in Stage 2. Branch had to push harder than the conditions allowed to make up for the penalty. That desperation leads to risks, and risks lead to mistakes. In Stage 2, he suffered a minor crash and a navigation error that cost him even more time. Instead of settling into a rhythm, he's now fighting a war on 2 fronts, the terrain and his own frustration. To understand why this is catastrophic, you have to look at how rally gaps work. 6 minutes isn't just 6 minutes on the clock. In a stage rally, 6 minutes drops you back into the pack. It puts you behind slower riders, it puts you in heavier dust, it forces you to make overtakes on narrow tracks where passing is dangerous. Suddenly, you aren't riding your own race, you are managing traffic. The compound interest on that time loss is brutal. To gain back 6 minutes on a rider like Sanders requires riding at an insane margin on unknown terrain. Branch is now forced to ride at 110% capacity just to get back to parity, while the leaders can cruise at 90%, a difference in risk exposure where crashes inevitably happen. Meanwhile, the support cast at Hero isn't exactly piling on the pressure to help him out. Nacho Cornejo is putting in a very Nacho Cornejo performance, solid, consistent, and quiet. He's sitting around 6th or 8th overall, keeping the bike upright and avoiding disasters. In a normal year, that's a great strategy. But this isn't a normal year. With KTM riding flawless stages, solid isn't enough. Cornejo needs to be forcing Sanders and Canet to look over their shoulders, but right now, he's just riding in their wake. He's not close enough to force the KTMs into a mistake, and he's not fast enough to take the lead on pure pace. Hero is currently fighting their own unforced errors, while KTM executes a perfect game plan. And in Dakar, you rarely get a second chance to fix a first-week disaster. The casualty report: Sherco's nightmare and Honda's slow burn. Hero is fighting their own mistakes, but for another factory team, the rally is already over before it really began. Usually, when we talk about the war of attrition at Dakar, we are talking about the second week. That is when engines typically blow, frames crack under stress, and riders succumb to physical exhaustion. But for the Sherco factory team, the dream didn't die a slow, agonizing death. It was violently extinguished in the first 48 hours. This highlights the most brutal reality of rally raid racing. You can spend an entire year strictly preparing, testing, and training, only to be packing your bags while the rest of the field is still figuring out their roadbooks. Lorenzo Santolino's exit is the definition of a nightmare scenario. After 3 crashes in Stage 1, Santolino lined up for Stage 2, hoping to reset. One more crash cracked the crankcase and ended his race. You can fix a lot of things in the bivouac, but you cannot fix a bleeding engine in the middle of a timed special. With Harith Noah also facing issues, Sherco's factory effort has effectively decapitated itself, leaving them with nothing but what-ifs and a long flight home. The Monster Energy Honda squad is playing a dangerous game with their diesel strategy, waiting for the rabbits out front to make a mistake. But this 2026 KTM squad isn't showing cracks, and by not applying immediate pressure, Honda is allowing Sanders and Canet to build a buffer without taking risks. A comfortable leader makes good decisions, while a stressed one makes bad ones. Honda is currently letting Canet make good decisions, validating KTM's strategy, and forcing themselves to ride aggressively in the technical stages later. Exactly how you end up with a broken bike. The Monster Energy Honda squad is playing a dangerous game with their diesel strategy, waiting for the rabbits out front to make a mistake. But this 2026 KTM squad isn't showing cracks, And by not applying immediate pressure, Honda is allowing Sanders and Canet to build a buffer without taking risks. The logic behind the diesel approach, starting slow and ramping up pace as others fade, relies entirely on the assumption that the frontrunners will falter. It worked in eras where machines were fragile and navigation was a lottery. But against this specific KTM lineup, it feels like a strategic trap. Sanders and Canet aren't riding ragged. They are riding with a calculated precision that suggests they can hold this pace all the way to Yanbu. By letting the gap grow to over 4 minutes this early, Honda is surrendering the strategic advantage. If they don't put pressure on Canet now, he settles into a rhythm. A comfortable leader makes good decisions. A stressed leader makes bad ones. Honda is currently letting Canet make good decisions, and every stage that passes without a Honda attack validates KTM's strategy. They are effectively letting KTM practice their front-running game without consequence, and that is a massive strategic gamble. This passive approach forces Honda into a corner. To close a 4-minute gap on pure pace later in the rally, Ricky Brabec and Tosha Sharina will have to ride at a pace that creates danger. They will have to push braking points on blind rises and carry higher corner speeds in rock gardens. That is exactly where the mechanical failures happen. They are banking on the long game, but if you let the leaders build a 10-minute gap now, you force yourself to ride aggressively in the technical, rocky stages coming up later. Riding at 110% through rock gardens to catch up is exactly how you end up with a broken bike or a medical evacuation. Historically, the diesel approach works because the rabbits eventually break their bikes or get lost. But this 2026 KTM squad isn't showing those cracks. We aren't seeing the navigational confusion or the mechanical fragility that usually evens the playing field by stage 6. Honda is waiting for a collapse that isn't coming. But potential doesn't win trophies, and right now, Honda needs to stop managing pace and start making moves before the gap becomes a canyon. So, with the field thinning and gaps opening, what does the data tell us about the rest of the race? The verdict. Why the Challenger collapse is real. If you look at the gaps, you might see seconds, but the reality is a strategic canyon. The Challengers are crumbling under pressure while KTM executes perfectly. With the brutal Alula Rock Gardens coming in stage 3, Sanders will likely only extend his lead. The Challenger narrative is dead unless someone beats KTM on pure pace, which looks impossible right now. Conclusion. We expected a war, but we're watching a KTM victory parade. Drop a comment if you think Honda is sandbagging or if Hero threw away their shot. Subscribe for Stage 3 updates because things are about to get rocky.